Before the sun touches Morocco, the country is already breathing. In the medinas of Marrakesh and Fez, in the blue alleys of Chefchaouen, in stone villages of the Atlas, the same sound travels through the dark. The call to prayer. Some wake and answer. Others turn in their sleep, comforted by a sound that has measured their lives since childhood. In Marrakesh, the red walls are almost black. A baker unlocks a metal door, sliding trays of dough into an oven that glows like a small sunrise. A lone taxi passes the shadow of the Koutoubia minaret. Cats rule alleys that will soon be full. Far north, Fez lies folded inside its own walls. The 9,000 alleys of the old Medina are empty, but behind wooden doors, water runs in tiled courtyards and kettles begin to boil. On the slopes of the Rif, Chefchaouen sleeps in darkness. Its famous blues are hidden for now, waiting for light. Across Morocco, the day begins long before anyone sees it. With sunrise, Marrakesh reveals why it is called the Red City. Walls glow from brown to terracotta. Rooftops become small worlds, satellite dishes, laundry lines, sleeping cats, and people holding their first glass of mint tea. From the street, many houses look plain, almost bare, but step through the right door and the city changes. Inside a riad, a courtyard waits in silence. A small fountain whispers. Orange trees lean over colourful zelly tiles. Light falls from above, not from windows, turning the house inward, toward family and guests instead of the street. In Jamar el-Fna, the legendary square wakes slowly. Orange juice sellers stack their fruit into bright towers. A few early taxis circle the empty space. The Koutoubia Mosque stands like a guardian at the edge. Soon, narrow alleys leading to the souks start to fill. Motorbikes slide past donkeys. Bakers carry fresh flatbread wrapped in cloth. The smell of frying dough, black coffee and hot oil mixes with the cool morning air. Marrakesh is awake. If Marrakesh spreads outward, Fez folds inward. Fez el Bali, the old Medina, is one of the world's largest car-free urban zones. Here, the streets belong to feet, hooves and handcarts. Morning in Fez smells of bread, leather and soap. From above, the Essaouira tannery looks like a giant artist's palette, circles of red, yellow, brown and white. Workers stand in the pits, turning raw skins into leather using centuries-old methods. Not far away, silence falls inside an old madrasa. Walls are covered in tiny tiles, each one a piece of geometry. Carved cedar wood filters the light. In the courtyard, a small fountain reflects everything: sky, calligraphy, stone. Fez is a city where the past never fully ended. Medieval streets are not preserved, they are used. Ancient crafts are not performances, they are work. Here, history is still alive, and it still needs to pay the bills. In the Rif Mountains, the first light touches Chefchaouen, and blue wakes up. Stairs, doors, arches, even flower pots. Everything wears a shade of the sky. Women sweep last night's dust down the painted steps. A man opens a tiny bakery, sliding dough into a low oven. A child in a school uniform climbs past, late but unhurried. The town clings to the hillside. To live here is to climb, to the fountain, to the shop, to the rooftop terrace with the best view of the valley. The reasons for the blue are many: tradition, belief, insects, beauty. But whatever the origin, the effect is simple. Every corner looks like a painting. Behind the famous doors, life is modest and familiar. Bread, olives, cheese, mint tea, chatter between neighbours. Quiet, shared routines in a village that became an icon. By late morning, Morocco's markets are fully awake. In Marrakesh and Fez, in small towns and roadside villages, souks become rivers of people and sound. Spices rise in coloured pyramids, deep red paprika, golden turmeric, browns and greens of unknown blends. Lanterns hang in crowded shops, their metal skins punched with holes that will one day turn into patterns of light on someone's wall. In leather stalls, babouches, traditional slippers, form colourful cascades. In fabric souks, hands test textures, hold cloth to the light, imagine future dresses and djellabas. Bargaining is not an exception, it is the rule. A price is given, a face is made, another price comes back. There is laughter, mock offence, praise, and sometimes a theatrical walkaway. The goal is not to win, but to meet in the middle, somewhere between need, habit, and respect. The souk is where Morocco negotiates with itself every day. Midday approaches, and the most important work in Morocco moves into kitchens and living rooms. In countless homes, a clay tagine bubbles on low heat. Chicken with preserved lemons and olives. Lamb with prunes and almonds. Vegetables, chickpeas and potatoes soaking up slow-cooked sauce. Bread is torn, not cut, and used as a tool, scooping, dipping, soaking. Most homes have a salon, a long room with couches hugging the walls, pillows lined up in careful order. This is where guests are received, tea is served, news is shared, and family debates begin. To be invited into the salon is to be welcomed into the private universe of the house. Tea arrives on a tray, poured from high so that foam blossoms on the surface. you will be told, "This is your home." They don't mean it literally. They mean, relax, you belong. Here, hospitality is not a performance, it is an obligation and a point of pride. Leave the cities and climb into the Atlas Mountains, and Morocco becomes stone green and sky. Terraced fields step down the hillsides like giant staircases. Villages of stone and mud cling to slopes as if grown there. In these mountains, Amazigh, Berber, communities have lived for centuries. Life follows the seasons: planting, harvest, snow, thaw. Weekly markets burst into life, then disappear again. People walk hours along stony paths to sell vegetables, buy tea and sugar, trade animals, fix phones. Paths snake up and over high passes like Tizintichka, where the road cuts through bare rock and clouds sit level with your eyes. Here, the beauty is not only in the views, but in the endurance of the people who call this steep world home. At Ouzoud Falls, water explodes over red cliffs into deep pools below. Mist rises into the air, catching the sun in tiny rainbows. Olive trees line the footpaths, their trunks twisted with age. Barbary macaques move through the branches, watching visitors with calm curiosity, always ready to accept a peanut or a piece of fruit. Cafes cling to the valley walls, their terraces offering views of water and rock. Below, boats painted in bright colours circle near the falls, small against the scale of the cliffs. In a country where many regions thirst for rain, places like Ouzoud feel like miracles. Further east, the land tightens into a narrow cut of stone, Todra Gorge. Here, vertical walls of limestone rise hundreds of meters on each side of a shallow river. The road, the water, the people, they all share a space that feels almost too small. Climbers test themselves on the orange rock. Families walk along the riverbed, children running from one side to another. A small mosque stands in the shadow of cliffs that seem to scrape the sky. Just beyond the gorge, the valley opens again. Palmaries stretch into the distance. Fields of wheat, alfalfa, and vegetables lie protected beneath rows of date palms. The contrast is sharp: harsh stone, then sudden green. Then, slowly, the green fades and sand begins. At Erg Chebbi, near Merzouga, the Sahara rises into great dunes, waves of gold shaped by wind instead of water. Camels move in single file along the ridges, their shadows stretched long. At the base of the dunes, small villages and camps hug the edge between solid ground and sea of sand. Life here moves with extremes: burning days, freezing nights. Water is precious. Shade is treasure. As the sun sinks, the dunes catch fire, turning orange, then deep red, then finally purple. When darkness falls, another show begins above. A sky heavy with stars, bright enough to silence conversation. Around small fires, stories and songs push back the night. This is one of Morocco's most famous beauties, and also one of its hardest places to live. Between stone and sand, Morocco grows oases. From above, they look like long ribbons of green running through dry valleys. Inside, it is another world: shade, water, and life. Date palms create a high roof. Below them, farmers grow pomegranates, figs, grasses for animals, vegetables for the table. Water runs in narrow channels, shared carefully among families. Every gate, every stone matters. Mud brick houses match the colour of the hills, almost disappearing at a distance. In these sour, fortified villages, people have learned to bend water and time to their needs, surviving in places that would seem impossible without this fragile green. Near Ouases, Ait Ben Haddou rises from the landscape like a memory. Its mud brick kasbahs and houses stack above a dry riverbed, forming one of Morocco's most iconic silhouettes. This was once an important stop for caravans bringing goods from the Sahara to the cities of the north. Today, it lives two lives: a village where families still climb narrow paths to their homes, and a backdrop for films and series watched around the world. In Ouases, modern studios sit near ancient walls. Here, Morocco's landscapes become other planets, other centuries, other kingdoms. But when the cameras leave, the real country remains. Turn west, and the land ends in wind and water. Essaouira stands white and blue against the Atlantic, its thick stone ramparts holding back the sea. Cannons still line the walls, pointing at ships that no longer come. Down in the port, blue wooden boats crowd the harbour. Fishermen mend nets, argue prices, and call out to each other across the water. Seagulls circle overhead, loud and impatient. Inside the Medina, the pace is calmer than in Marrakesh. Art galleries, woodwork shops, and music shops line the streets. At night, Nawa rhythms float from courtyards and cafes, deep bass, clacking metal castanets, chanting that feels both old and alive. Essaouira is Morocco's exhale, slower, cooler, touched by salt. As night falls, we return to Marrakesh, to a square that never really sleeps. Jamar El Fna becomes a glowing maze of food stalls and smoke. Plates of grilled meat, bowls of harira soup, piles of olives and breads appear under hanging lights. Crowds form circles around storytellers and musicians. Hands clap, drums answer, jokes land in Arabic, Amazigh and French. Snakes, acrobats, Henna artists, juice sellers, everyone has a role in the nightly performance. Across Morocco, lights go out one by one. In the blue alleys of Chefchaouen, on the terraces of Fez, in stone houses of the Atlas, in tents at the edge of the Sahara, in white streets of Essaouira by the sea. Living in Morocco means living with all of this at once. Ancient medinas and modern highways, harsh deserts and gentle oases, mountains that block the sky and oceans that erase the horizon, hidden courtyards and crowded squares, a country where beauty is not just in the views, but in the way people have learned to exist between them. As the last tea of the night is poured and the final shop shutter rolls down, somewhere a baker is already preparing dough, a family is unrolling a prayer rug, and another Moroccan day is quietly starting again.